what is the definition of a public trial? You may run into a suggestion that having the technology available so that somebody sitting in Texas can log on and watch the proceedings in real time is sufficient to constitute a public trial. And Joe, I wanted to know how you would answer that question, and please do so in the light of the Heisenberg theory. Can you talk about that a little bit? And I'm not talking about Heisenberg. I'm not talking about Heisenberg from Breaking Bad. Okay.
Say my name. Heisenberg. You're damn right.
In physics, anyone that's studied physics has heard of the Heisenberg Uncertainty Principle. The Heisenberg Uncertainty Principle is this. When you want to take a look at the structure of an atom, the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, to see what orbits they're in, what energy levels they have, how they're interacting with each other, which, believe it or not, is really critical. And even though we're talking about neutrons, electrons, and protons, we actually go down to quarks and items even smaller than electrons, neutrons, and protons. Here's the problem. They are so infinitesimally small, they couldn't possibly be seen under an ordinary microscope. So we use an electron scanning microscope. And how do we do it? We bombard them with energy so they glow, and we can see those tiny, minute particles. Here's the problem. We want to see how they're interacting each other, what their orbits are, what their orbital speeds are as they revolve around the neutron. But the more energy we put in, the more they absorb that energy, and it changes their behavior. They become faster, they become slower, they reverse positions, they repel each other rather than attract each other. So the more energy, the more viewing that's done, the more energy that's put into viewing to see them more clearly, the less accurately we are seeing how they behave. I believe in my own silly analysis, because I live in this world of astrophysics and when I'm not doing law, is that this is the same as a courtroom. When there's a judge up there and he's going to make decisions, he is mindful that the whole world is watching, at least the whole world, meaning those people that are in the stands. You're going to have police officers maybe rooting for cops. You may have bereaved families of a victim. You may have relatives, wives, children of the defendant. And when a judge looks out on them, he knows his decisions are affecting them. And as much as he consciously is seeking to exclude those influences, it's not possible as a human to do that completely. While he may be deluded into thinking he's making a completely neutral decision, I don't think that that's possible. And to some minor extent, he is being influenced. You need people in the courtroom, seeing them on video, knowing that there are faces out there in the quote audience, as you say, that may be in Morristown with someone else in Cherry Hill and someone else in Texas, I don't think has nearly the same effect. So I think that this was drafted into our prosecution because, as you know, the Star Chamber in England, where our forefathers came from, what happened behind closed doors, no one was allowed in, no witnesses, and nothing that happened behind closed doors was reported out. That the fact that people have that kind of anonymity, that secrecy, they can do whatever they want and they don't feel burdened by doing the right thing or by how others may judge them. I believe we need to have people in the courtroom and not merely present virtually by computers.
Joe, just to depart from the world of quarks for a couple seconds, would you say a good analysis of the Heisenberg Uncertainty Principle is that every time you look at something, you change it in some way? And the more you look at it, the more you change it. Would you agree with that to simplify it?
There's no question that everyone that has participated in televised trials, when by televised, I mean at least recorded by video cameras, for news, has said that they act differently, that everyone in the courtroom acts differently. They act more professionally. They act more animatedly. They want to attract media attention. Maybe they want to be more dramatic. It changes everyone in that courtroom, and there's no one that is immune to it.
So in our situation, having free access to strangers, to family members, to victims, to witnesses, and most importantly, members of the press is a critical component of the trial procedure. And the judge can't perceive that stuff when it's being broadcast on the internet. As a secondary position, you only see on the internet what the camera is pointed at. When you're in a courtroom looking around, you see everything that's going on and you look at what you want to look at and focus on what you want to focus. You don't have that option when it's a broadcast trial. So I suggest to everybody that you fight, right, not only for the right to party, but also for the right of your client to have a public trial. Now, Joe is exactly correct. This is a right that does not belong to the public. It belongs to the defendant. If the defendant waives it, he waives it. But if he doesn't, and he isn't asked to give an affirmative waiver, again, that's a structural defect requiring reversal of the conviction without any showing of that the defendant was prejudiced in any way.